Okay, so I'm just going to try and get her to join the chat. One moment.
Hello.
There she is. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
And you look lovely as per usual.
Oh, thank you. So do you?
Thank you. So, just a quick overview for everyone that has started to watch it already. Now, anonymous interviews give people the opportunity to tell their sepsis story without putting their face out there or putting their name out there if they don't want to. Now, obviously, Mimi is very happy to, publicly be on camera. So thank you for obviously taking part. It does mean a lot.
You're welcome. I'm happy to share my experience.
So I have a few questions for you, but if
Yeah,
you would like to sort of just do a little bit of an introduction into who you are, and obviously you have a little boy, so if you want to introduce him as well.
okay. So I am Michelle, and I've got a young boy, a little boy who I gave birth to last year in May, and he's a year old now.
And he's adorable,
Yeah,
I must add.
thank you.
Absolutely adorable. So I have got a few questions for you. And the reason that this interview is so important is because you fell ill to sepsis during childbirth. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay. So do you want to tell everyone sort of how it all started, how you felt before, and then we can sort of get into the questions after?
Correct. So throughout the whole pregnancy from the beginning till I was about 30 weeks, everything was fine. I never had any sickness. I never had any complications. I went to all my scans and everything was good up until falling into 30 weeks pregnant. Prior to the 13th of May, I started having headaches. I came from work and I was having so severe headaches that, I was struggling to sleep. I would turn over the other side and it wouldn't even change. And I even struggled to go to church that Saturday as well. So what happened is I even asked for paracetamols and I was given some because I wanted it to stop. So after that, I fell into Sunday and I thought, you know what, that's when I was feeling my baby was not really moving as normal because he had a time slot where he would move and then when you sleep. So it was a Sunday and I felt him moving odd hours. Then I felt him move the time he's supposed to be moving. Then I thought, okay, I'll keep on packing my stuff because I was supposed to be moving as well on the Monday to a new house where I would live with my son. So Monday morning, I woke up and I thought, you know what, I'm gagging for a pee, and I just went to the toilet. Next thing, I was bleeding heavily, and I just calmed myself down and I called the ambulance. I told them I'm 30 weeks pregnant, and they rushed over to me and they just did a few checks. They never told me what was going on. All that calmed me down was, we're going to take you to the hospital and you'll get checked. So I thought everything was fine. It's just a normal check. Up until I got to the hospital, I was very sleepy and very tired. That's when I told them I'm really, really cold, and they said, no, your temperature is too high. We need to open the windows and you cannot be covered in a blanket. And I said, no, I need to have something warm on me. And then they decided, okay, we'll give you something light, but we need to keep checking you. One of the midwives, they came and they checked and they couldn't, hear the heartbeat. Then they called the doctor for second opinion. And then they checked and the doctor said, no, the baby is fine. You need to just rest. You need to keep doing some more tests. So that's when they realized I had an infection. They wouldn't tell me where because I was very drowsy. So for them to calm me down, they had to tell me, okay, we're going to have to do a cesarean section, emergency C-section this afternoon within 3 hours. So your mom is on the flight coming down from England. So we have to prep you now. So by the time she comes, you could have given birth by then. So everything happened so fast. And all I remember was in the theater, and I was just talking. You know, when you're out of it, you just talk. And then, yeah, they were, you know, busy taking the baby out, and I asked them, is everything fine? They said everything is fine. Little did I know that I was losing a lot of blood, and then they had to, you know, everything just happened. So when I woke up, I was back in the maternity ward. That's when I woke up, and then they told me, oh, you've got a beautiful boy, you know, he's safe and he's in the incubator at the moment because he's born so early. He needs help to grow the lungs because, you know, it was still early, they were still developing. So I said, okay, that's fine. Then they told me I couldn't go to see him without a mask because I still had an infection and I still had to have antibiotics. So I thought everything is fine. And then yeah, a few days later, I started, you know, my brother would call me and then I would talk as normal, but I was starting to talk gibberish, you know, when you don't know what you're saying and it's not making sense. And he kept saying, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. And I would pause for such a long time until I said something, words couldn't come out. And then the doctor came to see me. I pretended as if I was fine. Then my auntie came to see, she called me on the phone and she tried to talk to me. And I told her I've got massive headache. But to her, you know, it didn't pick up. You know, sometimes when you know the person, you don't really like quickly, you know, pick up exactly what's going on unless that someone tells you. Sometimes it just passes by. And then, yeah. So I was just talking, not normal. It was not me. So I had some people come to see me and they noticed I'm not okay. So that's when they notified the midwife, like, we know her. So can you check on her, please, you know, to make sure she's okay. I'm not sure if she's okay because she's not sounding the same as we know her. You know, she's not usually like this. And they were more worried that I was going to get PTSD, you know, post-traumatic stress, because, you know, I just gave birth and maybe I'm not really realizing what's going on with, you know, with me, my body and everything. So they even tried to take me downstairs to see my son, but I couldn't get myself out of the bed. My leg was not moving. And I remember just replying them gibberish as well. And they were just laughing. To them, it was innocent because I didn't realize that, you know, something is wrong with me, all until I came back and then they said, you know what, we can take you back upstairs and then you can rest because you're probably really tired, you know, you just gave birth. They took me back upstairs. I laid down on the bed and then they spoke to the midwives, and then the midwives realized that I was not eating, I was not taking fluids, I was not eating. And then that's when they called the doctors to start checking me, like, is everything okay? Because they were not more worried now I had PTSD. But they didn't realize that the concern was the infection had flown through my body. So I got worse to what they told me, that, you know, I went into septic shock. And then I woke up and then I settled, but they put me in ICU where they had to run more tests. So then they came back again and then they took me for a CT scan and they told me, if you go to the CT scan, it comes back with something going wrong because we suspect that there might be a fluid on the brain because the infection you had has flown through your bloodstream. So I went through that and I remember just sleeping because they told me you can sleep when you're having the CT scan because it will take at least an hour. They need to take all the photos and everything. So after that, they had, I was taken out. Then they explained to me that you're going to the other hospital and then you're going to have an operation done on your brain to drain the fluid. So all that time, I was more worried. I was just praying to myself, like, I hope I'm okay, you know? I don't want anything to happen with me. I've got my son. I need to see my son. That was my concern. So they calmed me down. They transferred me. Then they called my parents and they told them, this is the situation. You guys need to come. This was in the evening in England. They had to drive all the way to Scotland because they thought if they get to the airport, they don't even know where the hospital is. So they had to drive down so they could get to the hospital by car. So yeah, that's what they did. And to what they now tell me when I woke up. They explained to me, everything. So when I got to the hospital, they checked me, and they had to do some more tests again, because they can't operate you, even though they have already done tests on the other hospital. They have to redo them and check thoroughly, because the surgeon has to, make sure that he's doing the right thing. So they explained to me. I only remember some people, some ladies coming to help me, physiotherapy.
Right.
And I was not having it. I was just tired. I didn't want to do anything. I just felt my whole body was just shut down. So then the next thing I remember was the surgeon telling me they're going to put me to sleep. And that's all I remembered from then. But waking up now, that's when I struggled to wake up. I could feel a tube in my throat. And then I was trying to take it out. When you're gasping for air and you feel like something is trapping you on your throat. I felt that. And then I woke up crying. Then I kind of saw the nurse. Then I saw my mom, and then I saw my dad. The next thing, the nurse was in front of me a few minutes later, and they said, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me? We're going to call the doctor." So the doctor came, and then he tried to talk to me, and he said, "Do you know where you are?" And I said, "No." I just shook my head. And then they asked me again, "Do you know where you are?" And I said, "Yes." "Do you know where you are?" And I said, "Yes." And they asked me the place I was. And then they said, "No, you're not there." And then I was like so confused. That's when they started explaining to me that you went into septic shock, and there was fluid on your left side of the brain. So we had to operate it, because that infection you had, through the placenta, it was taken out, but some of the infection had already flown through my bloodstream. So all that flown through the brain. So we had to clear that up. It was successful, but you were in a coma for a week. That's where everything started to recall, and I was like, in a coma. So I'm just waking up from a coma right now, and I am talking to you. I was just confused. He asked me my date of birth. I tried to say it out, but I couldn't. That's when they realized I can't talk because I lost my speech. They asked me to move my right arm. I couldn't do it. I had to use my left to lift it up. And then they asked me to lift my right leg. I could not move it. I just felt weak. I knew in my head I could move it, but, connecting to the leg, I couldn't do it. So that's when they said, okay, you have a weakness, like a minor stroke on that whole right side, and you can't talk. So the left side of the brain affected the right. So because we've already corrected that, everything is fine. They had to do all the checks before I woke up, because I was trying to wake up. So they had to do more tests. They did everything they could so that they'd make sure, they had done everything. So they called my parents in, and I was just crying because of confusion. I don't even know what was going on. I need someone to tell me exactly what happened. So mom and dad were just telling me, "You're fine, your little boy is fine. We saw him." And I was just crying. And the emotions you get when someone is telling you, you were in a coma, you nearly died. That's near death. So nobody told me it was sepsis. I had to keep questioning myself, what's really happening. So then my parents, they spoke to me. My auntie as well, she came from where she lived, and she spoke to me as well. She had traveled all the way long far as well to see me, because I'm really close to her. So, my brother is the only one who wasn't there because he was on tour with his, with his work. So it was quite a traumatic time. And the next few days, I started learning how to talk. The more my family spoke to me, I was getting my speech back. That was the best part. But for me, what really hurt me most was somebody doing all personal care. I know it's good, it was for my own good, but it was really troubling me because I was like, I've lost all my, my independence. How has this happened? I've never been that person who loses their independence. And it really hurt me because I wanted to help. I wanted to help them to help me as well. So I could tell the nurses, you know, they came in the room and they're like, don't worry, we are there for you. We'll help you in everything. We're looking after you. You're in the best care. So in the end, I just gave up. I was like, you know what? I'll just go on with what you're saying. It's for my own good, you know. And I didn't have my phone, so I wasn't in touch with anyone. The only people they would call is through the main reception, so they could check how I was, because I was in intensive care. So the next few weeks, you know, I spent about 3 weeks in that hospital because they had to make sure, you know, I am definitely okay to be, you know, sent back to the hospital I gave birth in. And through that, they also tried to start, you know, helping me to learn to walk. So they'll bring somebody in and they would, you know, 2 people, they'll come in and then they'll help me to walk. And also, like, you know, telling me your speech will come back. You know, it's amazing how much recovery you come from, because somebody else would have, you know, died on the spot because how I was so severe. So then they started to teach me how to, you know, to put things together, because I couldn't construct sentences anymore. So that was the hard part, you know, for me to be able to say something and someone is not understanding me. It was a bit of frustration. So in the end, I had to learn how to write with my left hand because I couldn't use my right hand. So 3 weeks went by. Then they discharged me and I was transferred back to the hospital. And that same night, I was reunited with my son. They brought the neonatal nurses, they brought my son to my room. And for me, it was very weird because, you know, I spent 3 weeks, 1 month of his life in another hospital and, you know, being looked after. And then I'm starting to see him, the way he was growing so much. That shook me, you know. I was happy, but I was crying because I had missed that long time. That was the gap I missed a lot, you know, getting to know him and bonding with him. I missed that much, you know, that mother care you want that first. My parents had, you know, got to hold their grandson first before me, which was a privilege, and I'm very grateful for that. But that moment where mother and son, you know, that bond, I never had that. So that's when they had to start working on me to learn to get that bond. They had to teach me how to look out, you know, to change his nappies, to feed him. And also they taught me how to bathe them. They taught me how to do housework because I had already, everything was out, you know. It's like I was starting from the bottom all the way up. So they started teaching me as well. They come in the morning, they'll get me to go and have a shower by myself. If I needed help, I'll call up. And then I had like a Zimmer frame I was working with. So, and a wheelchair in case I get tired. So I always had somebody with me taking me to the neonatal unit to be with my son, and, you know, and also had the speech therapist. They came in and they sat with me with my son, singing to him and reading stories to him so I could bond with him more. So yeah, that's pretty much what was going on. And it was really an amazing time when I was recovering because I was able to get back my independence.
Yeah, well, I think I speak for everyone that is watching. I can see, obviously, this is the first Instagram live that we've done, so I'm not expecting high numbers. And for everyone that is watching, thank you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, and obviously Mimi's, like, just by watching this, you are helping us. But your journey is just incredible, and to see what you're like now is just a miracle. And you know, I've seen pictures of you and your little lad, and he's beautiful. But so sort of going in with a few questions, obviously, if you're not too sure how to answer, please don't feel pressured.
Okay.
But did you know about sepsis before your illness?
I did not know about it. How I knew I had now sepsis is my specialist consultant who was dealing with me. He's the one who came in and then explained to me that what we discovered was you had sepsis.
Right.
And he even asked me, do you know what it is? And I said, I have no idea. That's when he had to break it down and explain that, when an infection persists in your body, any part of your body, and it prolongs so long without being treated, it becomes very infectious and very dangerous, and then it turns into sepsis. So that really shocked me, and I say that small thing, that little thing, even if I have a chest infection, that small thing can turn into sepsis. That really, it brought light to me.
It does.
For myself, I was really shocked. It broke my heart, and I said, I heard about sepsis only in nursing homes when I've worked in nursing homes, and what you hear is if an elderly person goes into hospital with sepsis, that's the end of life, and they never come back. But I never knew that it's actually real to everyone. Children can get it as well.
Absolutely, and this is why we do what we do, to raise the awareness, because people aren't aware. Whether it's a cut, a scratch, a paper cut, a chest infection, just a flu. And yeah, I personally, I didn't know what it was until I had it. So my next question for you, 1 second, let me get my questions up.
Sure.
So in one word, just in one word, how can you sum up your aftercare?
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. I'm really, really glad to hear that. Because there is many out there that don't have the aftercare. Here in the UK, I've heard a few things where they haven't got the aftercare, and especially in America, they haven't got the aftercare. So with the current situation that we're in right now, with the virus, how do you personally feel? Do you feel like you're a high-risk individual? Are you worried?
I'm worried of some sort because I constantly, am checking myself. Having gone through it, I'm a high risk. I've already had it before. I know how serious this is. So I'm constantly worrying every single day, even when I'm going out. I'm always wondering, what if, I know it's good to stay positive, but I also know that, something like an infection, it leads to sepsis. So you have to be so conscious about yourself every single day.
Absolutely. So how about, I know that we spoke briefly the other day. We did talk about post-sepsis syndrome, and this is a massive thing at the moment. Obviously with what they're calling coronavirus syndrome or COVID-19 syndrome. And there is a lot of similarities between that and post-sepsis syndrome. And I've obviously told you about my sort of kind of small little memory loss things and confusion. What symptoms of post-sepsis syndrome would you say that you have experienced?
I think when I was discharged from the hospital, the first things I noticed was I was forgetting a lot of things. So whenever my mom would say, would explain to me that, Michelle, you've forgotten this, and I said, no, I would actually argue with her because I was like, no, I was in denial until I was reading there's a time when you posted about it as well. That's when I started going back and I was reading. I said, you know what, this is actually real, because this can happen. Although it will fade out and go away, it does, it's really real. It does affect a lot. The other thing that, is very silent is mentality. The mental state of mind. That is a crucial thing, because even though I have healed physically, even though now I can work, I've gone back to normality, but it's that mental state where it's still there, it's still in my mind, and constantly, even though I look fine to everyone, I'm happy to share about it, and raise awareness. But it's that mindset where you know that, you've had it before and you're still dealing with it, You still have flashbacks. It's more of the flashbacks where my memories are still coming back. And there are times where I sit down and ask my mom, like, okay, can you tell me about this? Because I think I'm ready now to talk about it. Till today, I'm not ready to see the photos that I was taken in hospital when I was in ICU. Those are so raw that I've even told my family, please do not share to me, because for me, it's something that I still not ready to look back. So it's the mental state where it's affected me more of postnatal, post discharge.
Yeah. And I suppose that hasn't helped, obviously, with being a new mum.
No.
So obviously there's a lot of people that don't know about the links between sepsis and childbirth, and that it is a risk.
It is a risk.
But I feel like it's not spoken about. And I think in itself is an issue. But I'm hoping that you will be, because I know that you're on a little mission that I'm going to support you with 100%.
Thank you.
And I really think that what you are going to be doing will make a difference. I know friends that have had children, and we've gone on to one of my friends, her daughter actually had sepsis, but it wasn't until I sort of intervened, she came to me, did it get sorted. So awareness is everything. Absolutely. It's vital. I'm really sorry, there's a helicopter going over at the moment. It's gone. But it's just any awareness that anyone can do. And that's my message to the people watching. To round this interview up, because I want to keep the interviews very short and very sweet. What is your message to people?
My message is always check yourself. Know the signs. If you have a high temperature, or you have an infection that it's worrying to you, even a small infection, it can turn into sepsis. Do not be hesitant. Don't even think that it's only elderly people who get sepsis. Right now, I'm raising awareness, and I'm on my little project, as you mentioned, that I'm working on to put that word out, empower other people, empower women. And I'm on a mission to write a blog, to come up with a blog where I'll be mainly focusing on mothers, childbirth and sepsis, how it's linked together, and how it affects, when women get pregnant, they need to check themselves every single day, not just say, because my mom, went through a nice child, delivery and pregnancy, I have the same back with my mom, or, it never happens in my family. My mom never had it, and I had it as well. It just happens to everyone. We're not exempt from anything. It's really important to check yourself and check your body. If you see any small thing, especially women who are pregnant, or you're trying to conceive, research all these things and be prepared. Of course, we may not be prepared, but know the signs. Even when you're pregnant in early stages, you have an infection, persist. Even if the doctor says it will go away, persist and ask them to check you thoroughly. It's very important to get checked, especially now we're in this COVID. You need to make sure you check yourself, get yourself checked, and keep yourself safe away from all these things that's happening, Always wear your mask and stay indoors if you feel that, I'm not ready to go out, in the world, if you are at high risk.
Fantastically put.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to follow me, you can follow me on my Instagram. I'll be sharing more stuff as well.
Yeah, so anyone that is watching, I know we haven't got a lot of viewers, but we will get there. This will get there.
Yeah.
But anyone that is watching, definitely give her a follow, and follow her journey. I've spoken to Mimi, I don't know for how long. I always lose track. But it's been a while. And,
it's been a while.
Yeah, and definitely. And, as a new mother, I think it's important to be aware of the signs and the symptoms in children.
That's right. Yeah.
So, we can do another video or something on that at
Definitely.
a later stage. Yeah.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Jess, for everything. Thank you for the time you have allowed me to share my journey with you.
No, you're more than welcome. And just to anyone watching or that watches this later on, just thank you, because every view, every like, every comment will help. And then obviously I will post about my next interview maybe next week. But for now, thank you. And Mimi, thank you very much.
Thank you.